Depending on where you're from, you might call it an eraser or a rubber, and it is something that's very important as part of your kit of drawing tools that you're using with your art. And today I want to take you through a few different erasers and talk to you about how you can use them properly with your artwork. Hey everyone, my name is Jess. I'm from the Gold Coast Art School, and today, yes, I want to talk about erasers. So let's get stuck into it. This one here is probably the most common type of eraser. You've probably had it in your kit or in your school bag since you were a little tyke. And this is just a hard eraser. There are different qualities, I will say that. Some of the really cheap erasers, like hard erasers, they just don't do the trick. However, there are some tricks that you can do with these little ones, so keep watching and you might find out something kind of cool that you can do with this that you haven't considered before. But this is really important that you at least have one of these as part of your kit. The next type of eraser that you may or may not have come across before looks like this, or like this. It kind of looks like blue tack, but this one here is called a putty eraser. These little ones here, they usually come in a little square, like in a little packet. These sorts of erasers are excellent if you want a lot more control and you want to be able to pull out some of the pigment or some of the lead that's on your page, then these are excellent for that. I'll show you how to use this very, very soon. This is another one that you should have as part of your kit. Some other types of erasers that you might see, like on the end of a pencil. Who grew up with an HB pencil with an eraser on the top? Very, very common. They're not too bad, but the issue with these is that they do have this little bit of silver metal on the top there. And so these types of erasers don't last very long. And once they're gone, you can end up scratching your page. The last one that I want to mention today is like this wibbly wobbly thing here, which can also come in well, you can buy these little kind of, what is like a casing, something that you can actually hold. It's like a hard plastic casing that acts the same as a Stanley knife, and you can actually extend the eraser out. And this kind of eraser is very similar to the hard erasers that you can get. It's just that it's a different shape. So the good thing about these is that you can have a little bit more control over your work because the rubber isn't like a big chunky rubber. It's like a really thin little strip, and so you can get into finer areas. That's our different types, but I want to show you now how you can use them in your work. Now I'm only going to touch on this because our next video is going to be how you can use these erasers in more depth. First of all, I want to show you how you can actually modify this eraser, the hard eraser, so that you can do a bit more work with it. It's kind of fun and exciting. You will need a hard eraser and a Stanley knife. Yeah, you're going to be cutting it up, guys. What we're going to do is cut a wedge off the eraser. And what this is going to do is give us a really fine edge that we can use later on. So you probably don't want to be cutting in half like that, because then you're going to end up with half an eraser, and it's probably better if you just go from the tip of the eraser. You can cut this way or this way, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm going to go from here and chop down. So then you end up with a little wedge and your chunky bit of eraser here. Now that edging there, it's not super duper sharp, so you can always kind of go back in there and make sure that it is a sharper edge, because if you're holding onto the main part of the eraser, like the biggest bit, that gives you more control in your hand for doing your erasing. So we've cut this one, and now I want to show you very briefly how you can use these. In front of me here, I have some very typical examples of pencils that you should have in your kit. HB, 2B, 4B, 6B. These are things which you're going to be using as part of your drawing. Mainly you're going to hang around out here, HB and 2B pencils. Now you've got these different types of erasers in front of you. You've got your hard eraser, you've got your little wedges, and you've got a putty rubber. Hard eraser, I probably don't need to talk to you too much about it. Across the board, it does a pretty good job. As you get into the darker leads, it can be a little bit more tricky to remove things. One of the issues with these is that it's too chunky, and you might not get the definition or the fine detail that you want. So that's where things like your little wedge or the little sharper edge of your eraser that you've just cut can come into play. So with this, you can use that really fine edge and actually get in here and do much finer detail. And not just in terms of the lines that you make. You can make lines like this, really sharp lines, but also itty bitty little areas, teeny tiny little spots you can use it for. Instead of trying to get teeny little areas with a chunk of eraser like that, you can use your little wedge. As you can see over here on my 6B, it's starting to lose its effectiveness, and one of the reasons for that is it's a 6B pencil, so the darker the lead, the harder that it can be to actually lift that that graphite out of your page. If you dull your wedge, if you sort of end up rubbing away the little finer areas and things and you want to bring them back, very easy. Just whip out your Stanley knife again and your little cutting pad and cut it again. What about this stuff? What about your putty rubber? How do you use this? It does give you more control because you can actually manipulate it, pull it, and make different kinds of shapes with it. So for example, you can make a fine point, and then you can actually do a little bit of erasing on finer areas. But it's not actually super great for trying to remove a lot of graphite. It's better to dab, so you can dab at different things and see how that's lifting away. If this gets really dirty, how you clean it is you can just pull it, and then fold it over so you get a fresh bit. For some of these softer, darker leads like this, it can be really effective if you've kind of gone too dark, like you've added too much, you've gone too far, you've gone into the depths, dab, 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 and it just pulls it off the page. How was that, everybody? Remember, next week we're going to be using these erasers a little bit more for a particular activity involving hair, drawing hair, and how do you actually add highlights and things. So I hope you stay tuned. Also, what did you think? Leave me a comment down below, tell me what you reckon, and also while you're at it, give it a little thumbs up because it's free and it really, really does help us out. You can always contact us on social media, and yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye guys.